So, you want to be smart, huh? People usually say it takes 12 years of school, plus 4 years of college, and then 6 more years of grad school to be smart. But in reality, you just end up with no job and no home. That's not even a joke. But on the bright side, if you write on Reddit about not finding a job, you can do it with perfect grammar. For example, I can't find a job, but check out my awesome spelling. So maybe being smart is more than just going to school. If you haven't figured it out by the title, becoming smart is actually really easy, even if you think you're not that bright. In reality, if you compare yourself to other animals, you're actually super powerful. For example, can a dog do math? Nope, but you can. And have you ever seen a cat reading a book? I don't think so. So, you're already ahead of the game. If you can read, write, and do a bit of math, you're doing great. So, don't worry about being smart. Just keep learning new things, and you'll be amazed at how clever you can become. When people like you and me say we want to get smarter, it means a lot of different things. We want to pick up cool skills, especially ones that help us earn money. We want to be great at solving problems, preferably problems that pay us. We also want to get better grades and learn tough subjects, not just to make more money, but to show off a bit too. And finally, we want to sound smart in conversations, enough to get people to respect us, but not so much that they think we're total nerds. For example, you want to be the person who knows fun facts, not the one who corrects everyone's grammar all the time. So, let's get smart without being overly showy. The problem is, most advice on the internet is so confusing and vague that only people like Oprah and Socrates could actually follow it. If you look for tips that you can actually use right now, here's what you'll find. Eat blueberries because they're good for your brain. Drink black coffee. Exercise. Sleep more. Take IQ tests. Listen to classical music. These ideas sound nice, but at some point, you actually have to learn real stuff. And in the past, some really smart people spent all day at their desks, barely sleeping. So while these tips are cool, remember that real learning takes more than just following a list. So, what can you really do to get smarter? If you're tired of the same old tips that seem like they came from a Facebook meme or a WikiHow article inspired by a Subway graffiti quote, here's a better idea. For example, instead of just eating brain boosting foods or listening to classical music, try some fun activities that actually make you think. In reality, getting smarter is more about doing interesting stuff and learning new things every day, not just following random advice. The most important thing you need to do is read. What should you read? That depends. Reading fiction helps you read faster and learn new words. Plus, if you read lots of dialogue, it can make you feel like you're hanging out with friends. But if you want to impress people with cool facts, nonfiction is the way to go. For example, if you read about space, you can drop awesome space facts in conversations. So, mix it up and read both fiction and nonfiction to get smarter and more interesting. For example, if you read this book, you could impress people by talking about history. But remember, don't be annoying about it. Like, isn't it wild how we evolved from chimpanzees? Well, actually, evolution is a bit more complicated, and there were several human like species on Earth at the same time, none of which were exactly like chimpanzees. So, while it might be cool to show off on YouTube, in real life, saying, well, actually, to correct someone will make you instantly unpopular. Change well to easy. And now we're talking. Let's try that chat again. Isn't it wild how we evolved from chimpanzees? It is wild, right? I was reading recently and found out that humans and chimpanzees didn't exactly come from each other. Instead, we kind of evolved next to them. So, you can be smart and still be down to earth and sound like you actually hang out in the real world. The trick is to share what you know without making others feel silly. If you do that, people will actually learn from you, and they'll think you're really smart and cool. For example, instead of saying, you're wrong, try saying, I read something interesting about that. So, help others learn without being a know it all, and you'll look awesome and smart. So, how do you find these books? It's actually super simple. You don't have to stick to the same 5 books everyone talks about. Just think of something you want to learn, like cleaning. Then search for books about cleaning. For example, you might find a book that looks great. Normally, these books cost money, but if you happen to accidentally click on a website and search for the book's title, and then maybe click the first link and oops, accidentally download it, you can open it with your ebook reader. In reality, finding books can be that easy. Okay, now that you have the book, you'll see that not only can you find cool facts to share in conversations, but you can also pick up lots of handy skills. For example, you might learn how to fix a leaky sink or impress your friends with fun trivia. So, enjoy your new book and get ready to show off what you've learned. There are 10 important things to remember before you learn a new skill. First, if you don't practice, your brain might just forget everything. Second, you only need to know 20% of the stuff to get really good at 80% of the skill. For example, you don't have to know everything about a sport to play it well. So, let's skip the boring details and get to the fun stuff. This is what we call the learning curve. It's like a graph that shows how you get better at something over time. For example, if you practice just a little, you'll make a lot of progress at first. But in reality, you still need to keep practicing to keep getting better. So, don't give up after the first few tries. Nobody ever learned how to tie a tie just by watching someone do it. You only get it right by actually practicing while you watch. The same thing goes for reading. Books only make you smart if you actually remember what you read. For example, after you read about how to clean a bedroom, go ahead and clean a bedroom. It doesn't even have to be your own. Just clean any bedroom, and you'll remember how to do it forever. But let's pretend there's something you can't practice right now. For example, imagine you're reading a book about cars, and you see a diagram showing how to jumpstart a dead car. Ideally, you'd read about it and then try it out. But not everyone has two cars just sitting around to practice on. So you can still practice by imagining it. Picture yourself needing to jumpstart a car. Find a video and pretend it's your car. By imagining the whole process, you trick your brain into thinking you've actually done it and you'll remember it better. Meanwhile, someone who only looked at the diagram and tried to remember it will probably still be lost if they need to jumpstart a car. This is how you really get smart. Use everything you learn. And if you can't practice it, just imagine yourself using it. This is kind of how school works. You learn something, and even though you might not use it for years, your teacher sets up a pretend situation where it's needed. That's what a test is. Questions about that stuff. If you get it wrong, you fail. Or in South Korea, you might end up in prison. Just kidding. Only if you cheat. This trick usually helps your brain try to remember stuff. But once the test is over, your brain decides it's not important anymore, and you forget it. Some folks think repeating things, studying in small chunks, or using fancy methods like mind mapping will boost their grades and speed up learning. But in reality, doing practice questions works best because they mimic the real situation where you'll need to use what you learned. So practice away, practice.